Yeah, recording on Zoom as we do. And let me get my screen going. So, where is everybody from? Put in the chat where you're from. I would love to know where you're connecting in from. And we are going to get started here in just a couple of minutes, trying to make sure everything is streaming and working and all of the good things. So, welcome. Hi, Cindy and Jules. Welcome, welcome. Glad you guys are here. So while we're just waiting, we still have about 2 minutes or so. Oh, Atlanta. Nice. Been to Atlanta many times. I'm just going to Facebook's heaven. Columbus, Ohio. Oh, very cool. I lived in the Cincinnati metro area for about 3 years. Missouri, Edie, what part of Missouri? I had some hospitals in Missouri. I've been to Missouri many times. I love going to Branson. Riley dialing in from Texas. Paris, Missouri. I can't say I've been there. I may have to check it out. What's Paris, Missouri known for? Like what's something interesting or unique about that part of the state? Oh, you're in the northeast corner. Okay. All right. Very nice. Hi, Marge. Me. You're I love it. You're the unique thing about Paris, Missouri. That's true and also amazing. Welcome in Zoom. We have Doug, we have Riley, we have Grant. Welcome, guys, to I what's interesting. Of course, you're amazing. Okay, so we've got 1 minute left. Drake, I'm doing great. How are you today? We're gonna talk about loneliness and 3 simple steps. Notice I'm not saying they're easy steps. They are simple, and we'll talk through what those look like. So, all right, we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to say a prayer and get this party started here. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for just the opportunity for us to all be here together today and just the ability to help share some of the insights and things that have helped me on my journey and some other folks that I work with. And I just pray for your wisdom and pray for your comfort and peace as we're coming up on the holidays, that you are near and close to the brokenhearted, as you promise us you will be, and that people can feel your peace and your love at a time that might be really tender and difficult. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, I have some new folks with me today, which is amazing. I have some old folks and some new folks. So I'm curious. Now I am like, have you ever gone to those shows and it's like an animal, a pet show or something, and they're like, oh, the more you clap, the more, excited they get, the better the show's gonna be. Like this is the same thing. I love to see engagement in the chat. So it doesn't matter if it's an emoji, if you put yes, if you put no, that's terrible. Whatever it is, like just put some energy in the chat, and that way I know what's resonating. I know what's confusing. I know what you guys feel contrarian about. Like, I love all of it. So Edie's like, absolutely. Edie, we're going to be good friends here. I can already tell. And Jennifer from Colorado. Welcome, Jennifer. My brother-in-law, my late husband's brother, lives in Denver. So, all right, what we're going to do today is I'm going to share the brief version of my story and the problem that widows and widowers face with loneliness. Loneliness is one of the top problems and challenges that we face. I'm going to share why that is. what the solution is, how we can overcome that. And then for those of you who are interested and want to stick around, I'm going to talk about the Brave Widow Academy, which is a 6-month program designed to help widows move from deep grief to rebuilding a life that they love, and some of the bonuses I have that are going on right now. Now, if you don't care about that, you don't have to stick around, but I would love for you to, because we have some really awesome people in the academy, and some of our academy folks are dialed in and connected. So, oh Lord, the loneliness. I know loneliness is one of the number one of the top three typical challenges that we face. So, if you were to ask me just over 4 years ago, I never would have imagined being able to sit here and have this live stream and talk to you today and share my story. Just over 4 years ago, it was July of 2021, 3 weeks shy of what would have been our 20th wedding anniversary. I watched as the ambulance took Nathan, who was my best friend and husband, from our home, never to return. I worked in healthcare for 20 years, and I remember telling my kids, like, don't worry, he's going to the hospital. Like, the hospitals are where people go to get better, right? And we both had COVID that morphed to double pneumonia, and he ended up being in the ICU for 11 days. And this was COVID times, so I wasn't able to go visit him in person. I was also getting over this illness, and he started to have organ failure in the hospital. And there were lots of ups and downs as he was ill, but I remember that I was called and asked to come to the hospital to talk about the next steps on this road to recovery. Only there wouldn't be any. In fact, there wouldn't be any kindness, there wouldn't be any warmth, there wouldn't even be a smile. The physician would just sit across from me at the table and simply say, "We think your husband's brain dead." And I just remember, like, in that moment, trying to wrap my mind around, like, how is this possible? How did we get here? How is this my life? Like, he was getting better. How is this happening right now? 3 weeks later, on what would have been our 20th wedding anniversary, I'd already planned to have family and friends over. I'd already ordered t-shirts to celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary. And so if you can see my screen, you can see, like, I'm wearing the t-shirt. 20 years married, best friends, Nathan and Emily. And so 3 weeks later, I would still have family and friends over, but it would be to celebrate and honor his life. And so instead of facing that day happy as a wife of 20 years, I had to face that day crushed as a widow and now a solo mom to 4 teenagers. About a year later, I had a memorial garden built in the side of our yard outside. And I got a park bench put out there because I thought, oh, I'm gonna sit out on the bench, and like, this garden will just be a beautiful reminder of the life that we had, of the love that we had, and it'll just be a nice place to sit out there and just think about all of the great times. But instead of being comforted by sitting out there in the garden, I was actually tormented. And it just was a reminder every day that Nathan was never coming back. And I remember it was fall of 2022. One day I was sitting on the bench. It was in the afternoon, and I was like doubled over. I was clutching my chest, and I was crying, like that guttural, horrible cry from the pit of your stomach, and like my chest hurt so bad. It was really tight. And I remember thinking, like, this is it. this is how I go out. Like, I physically cannot live like this anymore. Like, this is going to be what does it. This is how people die of a broken heart. Like, this is it. But I just kept crying and I waited for the tears to stop as they always did. And I just remember sitting back up and looking around and just feeling like really hollow and thinking about like how sad it was and how unfair it was that, my kids really had only technically lost one parent, but in a way they've lost two because I felt dead on the inside. And I just felt like a shadow of the person of who I used to be. And I didn't know, like, is it ever going to feel like life is worth living again? Can you ever find happiness? And I would ask other widows, and they would give me mixed answers. Some people would say, yes, you can find happiness again, but they couldn't tell me how. They couldn't tell me what to do. Other people would say, no, it never gets better. You just learn how to deal with it. You just got to tough it out. But I remember sitting on that bench and feeling like I was at a crossroads on this particular day and recognizing that I had a decision that I had to make. Either I was going to do everything I could to figure out how to get on this other side of grief, or this was going to be the rest of my life. And it ultimately might be the end of me. And so I remember just I continued to think about my kids and think about what they needed and what was right for them. And so I decided on the bench I was going to do whatever it took to figure out how to get on the other side of grief, how I could have a life that was even partially worth living again. And so I sat on the bench and I closed my eyes and I remember saying out loud, Nathan, I love you and I miss you, and I can't live like this anymore. I have got to be able to move forward. And I opened my eyes and I stood up, and that was really the beginning of what has been a relentless pursuit of understanding grief, of understanding what it means to rebuild life, of interviewing what now has, and talking to what has now been thousands of widows, coaching hundreds of widows. I started a podcast where I just started interviewing widow after widow after widow and widower on their story and what they would tell people that has been helpful to them. It's called The Brave Widow Show. I just hit our third year that we are live on YouTube and just over 100 and right at 180-ish episodes that are live there. And I'm so glad to share with you that I can say today I do love my life again. I went through a tremendous journey of healing and of deciding that I was going to intentionally rebuild my life. I did things I never thought possible. I became a real estate investor, a public speaker. I traveled to 5 new countries. I just am about to come up on an anniversary of being remarried to the most wonderful, supportive, amazing man. Like, who takes PTO from their work to go with you to a conference for funeral directors? Like, he believes in what I do so much. And I gained a bonus son in the process. And so I got to meet Dave Ramsey in person and thank him for the work that he had done that allowed me to not be in poverty when I lost my husband. And so I have been incredibly blessed. And also, this is a culmination of being very intentional about trying to figure out like how do I create a life that I can love again? How do I help other people do the same? I was tired of people saying I just needed to give it time. My approach to serving widows really comes out of the faith-based coaching academy where I went and got a coaching certification from a 20-year practicing psychologist and therapist. My approach is faith based, We combine psychology, counseling, theories, methods, spirituality, and also life coaching tools. And I never knew that those things could be blended together, but my coach, Dr. Betsy, um, gave me a lot of tools and helped me with being able now to help other widows, which is amazing. So, are you in the right place? Should you be on this live stream? Are you still with me? Put it in the chat and let me know. Doug, hello from Southern Ohio. I love Southern Ohio area. If you can't tell, I'm from the South. I'm in Arkansas, and I found Southern Ohio to be very close to Kentucky and very hospitable and friendly, which was amazing. So, if you want connection, if you want guidance, if you want to feel seen, if you want to stop pretending that you're okay and actually start learning how to be okay, you are in the right place. You are not in the right place if you are not ready to take action, but you want to give it time. If you are unwilling to change or to implement new ideas. Lisa is asking if I have grief I'm dealing with. I was widowed 4.5 years ago, and so now I am to a point where I love my life again, and that's what I get to help people do every day. So, when I think about loneliness specifically, which is what we're going to talk about today, and ways to overcome loneliness, I'm a root cause type of person. So, I like to think about like, why do so many widows experience loneliness? Lisa, I'm sorry for the loss of your son, and I'm glad that you're here. You're welcome here. I think about three main problems that feed into this overall feeling of loneliness that widows and widowers have. Okay. And the first problem is that there's this season, this phase, this experience of isolation from other people. The statistic I found said that most widows will lose 75% of their social circle in the first year. For most of my clients and people I've talked to, that number is maybe closer to 80 or 90%. And it can leave people feeling like, where did everybody go? It's been a few weeks after the service and people stop calling, they stop reaching out, they stop inviting me, they stop checking on me. Like everybody else's life has gone on, and I'm stuck in this weird dimension of time now. The second problem that feeds into this sense of loneliness is that there really is a lack of guidance. There are a lot of grief recovery programs out there. There are a lot of grief groups. There are tons of Facebook groups. There are so many books and programs around grief, but not necessarily a lot of guidance of like, well, what do you do after you start to heal your heart? And that was the point that I got where I felt like I was starting to go a little crazy, which is like I've gone to counseling, I've done a lot of work around grief recovery and emotional healing, and like now what do I do? And everyone would just keep saying, give it time, just keep giving it time. And I'm like, time is not helping me. So there really is in the industry a lack of guidance for what do you do to not only just process grief and have tools to navigate it, but how do you start to rebuild life? Like there's no one telling us what to do. Okay, that's the second problem. The third problem for not all, but many widows is that they lose their sense of confidence. So we lose our thought partner, we lose the safety net that we had of being able to run ideas past our person. Because our nervous system is dysregulated, now we're hypervigilant and we operate from a place of fear and feeling anxious and being unsure about things. And so we have a lot of thoughts around feeling lonely, which is like, oh, I guess nobody cares about me because if they cared about me, they would reach out. If they cared about me, they would invite me. If they wanted to be friends with me, they would. Maybe I just make them too sad. Maybe I'm broken and now something is wrong with me. if I want to have friends, I'm going to have to wear a mask and pretend like everything is okay. Does any of that resonate with you guys? Have you ever thought or felt that? Okay, so why loneliness becomes such a problem, if I was going to boil it down really simply, is because we become isolated. There's a lack of guidance, and we typically lose our confidence or lose a piece of our confidence. Okay, my experience. I Nathan and I were the best of friends. And I worked a very demanding job where I traveled and I was responsible for thousands of employees across hundreds of locations in multiple countries and states. And so I traveled nearly full time. And I was had deep relationships with people who worked for me. But the people who worked for me didn't live near me. They lived in multiple different states. And so I had this somewhat of a rude awakening after Nathan died, that my friend group was all people I worked with who were in multiple states and who somewhat had to be at arm's distance because many of them reported to me. And I didn't have people in my local community that I had friendships with. And here were the other challenges for me. I wanted friends, but I am a hardcore introvert. And I know some of you are like, no, you're not. You wouldn't be on this live stream if you are. But listen, I know Myers Briggs. I know how I get energy. I am a super introvert, okay? I'm a homebody. I enjoy being at home. I love being at home. I like my house. I like reading a good book. I hate small talk. I have learned how to navigate small talk and I see it for what it is, but I don't enjoy it. And I really I recognized at the time, when after Nathan had died, after several months, um, my life was pretty boring because I had four teenagers. I worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, always on call. So my I didn't even have time for Netflix in my life, okay? My life was work and kids, and that was it. And I'm like, my life is so boring. Like, who would want to be my friend? Who would want to be friends with me? I have nothing to talk about. I don't know the latest shows. I know nothing about pop culture. I don't even care about any of those things at the time. So how in the world am I going to make friends? And how do you make friends when you're almost 40? Is there like an app? Like I seriously was Googling like what do people do to make friends? Is there like a dating app but for friends? And then I realized that in the dating world, friends isn't like friends. Friends is something else, right? And so I'm like, what are you supposed to do when you're in your 40s and you don't like going out and meeting strangers and you don't like big crowds and you're awkward at small talk and you don't know what to say? What are you supposed to do? I realized one day I was sitting on my couch and I felt so lonely. And I remember just being like, God, I mean, can't you just send somebody to my door to just like knock on the door and be like, hi, it's me. I'm your new best friend. Let's go. Let's go to a concert. Let's go to the movies. Um, I kept waiting for someone to just show up and be my friend. Why wasn't God sending anyone to my door? And then I had this thought or this realization like, okay, I live in a small town of like 9,000 people. My home was on 37 acres out in the woods. It would be really weird if someone just knocked on my door. First of all, as an introvert, I wouldn't answer the door. Let's just be honest about that. And secondly, if somebody was at my door and was like, hi, I'm here to be your new friend, I would be like, you are a psycho. Like, no, who does that? That would just be so weird. But it took me a while to realize that even subconsciously, that like I was just waiting. I was just waiting for someone to show up. I was waiting for someone to find me interesting and want to be my friend. And I was waiting for God to send me someone. I didn't think that I need to go out and find them. And so, what I'm going to share with you today are three simple steps to overcoming loneliness. But I only have I have your time for an hour today. And what I teach widows to do is really we go through a 30-day challenge of how to meet people and make a new friend. So I have no doubts in 30 days you can make a new friend. We've done this challenge twice now, and we'll be doing it again early next year. But I share that because what I'm going to share with you is going to be simplified and limited, but I'm able to help. I am able to help you, and I do help widows more beyond that. So I'm going to share, I'm going to give you, it's going to feel like you're taking in information from a fire hose. Okay. I'm going to give you as much as I can in the time that we have, but just know that there is more. So I'm going to give you 3 simple steps. Now remember my disclaimer in the beginning. I'm not saying these are always easy, okay? But they are simple. And what I will remind people is that the company is called Brave Widow. It's not called Fearless Widow. It's not called Life is Easy Widow. It's called Brave because what we ask of ourselves is hard, is heavy, is awkward and weird and difficult at times. And yet we choose to feel all of the gross things and do it anyway. Okay. So if you want to have friends, one of the first things that you have to do is to meet people. Okay. You cannot be like me and sit on the couch and just think that somebody's going to show up at your door. So when I'm teaching widows what it means to meet people, there are 3 types of people that I want you to consider. Okay. One is going to be easy. One is to look at existing family and friends. So it's like one bucket, existing family and friends that you know that maybe you had a good relationship and it just kind of fizzled out. Or maybe you never had a great relationship, but you never really invested in it either. And so you're like, wow, who knows? Maybe we could be great friends. Pick 1 or 2 people from that bucket. Okay. So existing family and friends. The second one is to look at people who are other widows or widowers or people in grief. And the reason you want connections from that category is because you want people who are on the same journey as you. People that you don't have to explain. Everybody has a unique journey, but like you don't have to explain things to other widows. Like they get it pretty quickly, right? So you can talk to other widows without having to explain all the nuances of why it's hard and how it has changed you and all of those things. The third area are completely new connections. So these are people that you share values with or interests and hobbies with. So it might be people at church. Or I saw somebody say, volunteer your time. Yep. So it might be a place you volunteer your time. It might be a pickleball group. It might be, I tried a line dancing class one time. It might be that. But it's important, in my opinion, it's important for you to have friends, make new friends, people who don't know the old version of you, because family and friends often are waiting for you to go back to normal. They're waiting for you to become back to the old you, the old way that you used to be. And they don't always understand that that isn't going to happen. And I say that gently because sometimes for people in grief, they are still waiting for themselves to go back to normal. But the reality is that this sort of grief and trauma changes us. And so the old life that we had, the old person who we were, we no longer are that person. And so it's helpful to find people who only know this version of you. Grant says, my teens have said you're not the same. Exactly. And you aren't. And that doesn't mean that you cannot be just as good or more expanded. Like I am not the same person that I was, but my gosh, I am so proud of the person I am today. And I wish I was the person I am today. I wish that Nathan knew this version of me. I love who I am today. But in the beginning, it doesn't feel that way, right? In the beginning, you're very focused on who you used to be and getting back to who you used to be, and that's okay. But it helps to have people who don't know that old version of you, who look at you and say, gosh, Grant, I like you just the way you are. You're a pretty cool guy. Edie, you're a pretty cool lady. And you are whole. And I know this version of you. That's all I know. And I think it's great. I want to be your friend. That is so helpful to have those types of connections where if you're having a tough day, for them, that's normal. They're like, oh, Emily's just having a tough day. Like, that's just her thing for now, right? So, meeting people, look at the buckets, okay? And here's the thing, you don't need 25 friends. Pick one or two from each category that you want to build a relationship with, okay? Now, where do you go to meet these people? That's one of the top questions I get asked. So, here's a list. If you can see my screen, you can jot these down. These are places I actually went to meet people, and I live in a small town in Arkansas. So, I don't want to hear that you can't do this. You can do this, even in a small town. Okay. So we can go to meetup.com, eventbrite.com. On Facebook, you can go to local events. On Google, you can look up classes near me. You can look for shared value places like church, places you want to volunteer, places that you could take a lesson or a class or pick up a hobby. And what I tell people is, as they're figuring out who they want to be now, is that you just try a bunch of different things. Like, this is your time to experiment and to let it be fun, to look at it with a sense of wonder, childlike wonder and amazement, and being bad at something for the first time, just to embrace that. Okay. It might be a group of goals that you have. So I went to a real estate investing group and I was terrified to walk into the building. Okay. I, the longer, there's a longer version of the story, but essentially when I went for the first time to join this group, I sat out in the parking lot for 20 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. It was 20 minutes trying to convince myself to walk into the building. That's how much anxiety I had around walking into a place I'd never been before, to meet people I'd never met before, to do something that I knew nothing about, and to be willing to for people to look down on me or to say that I didn't deserve to be there. Like, one of the thoughts that I had as I was sitting in the parking lot was literally, I don't know anybody there. They're going to make fun of me. I'm not even an investor. I'm an imposter. I'm a fraud. I don't even know where the bathrooms are. Like, that was one of my fears, is like, how am I supposed to go in there? Who am I going to sit by? I don't know where the bathrooms are. Like, all the anxiety, right? Of like trying something for the first time. But over the years, I'm now the vice president of this group. Like, what? How did that happen? So, if you have goals about something you want to learn about, or something you want to try for the first time, travel groups are a really great place to go to meet other people. And there are widow travel groups and women only travel groups and solo travel groups. Like, if you're afraid to travel by yourself, there's so much opportunity to go out and meet people. But you have to be willing to go out and meet them. So this is why I say these steps are simple. Like, it's simple. You go places to meet people, but it doesn't feel easy, right? You're like, oh, but going places means I have to like get out of my house and stuff. Right. So it's simple, not always easy. That's why coaching is so helpful. Okay, so the 3 steps: we meet people. Second one is we make friends. Okay, so how do we do that? We've gone out, we're like meeting people, we're talking to them, but how do we like take it to the next level? How do we turn that into a friendship? So the number one tip that I have for you in navigating small talk, in not feeling like the spotlight is on you all the time and not having to have the pressure of saying something clever and funny and all of those things, the number one tip I have for you is to be insatiably curious about the other person. People are very willing to talk about themselves and are often very comfortable talking about themselves. Edie says, be brave. Yes, we got to do it and be brave. Making friends, we got to feel the fear, the anxiety, the self-consciousness, the awkwardness, and we have to be willing to feel all of the crappy feelings and just do it anyway. Okay. So, my number one tip is to be insatiably curious about the other person. Ask a lot of questions. People love to talk about themselves, so just let them do it, right? And the key is where the practice comes into play is that you can determine whether that conversation kind of fizzles out or whether you keep it going. So let's say, for example, that you're asking someone like, "Oh, hey, have you what is something that you like to do?" And somebody says, "Oh, I like to go skiing." And you might think to yourself like, "Oh, I don't know anything about skiing. I don't have anything in common with this person. That was a bust." Okay? That's one outcome that happens. You might also, instead, if you were being curious about the other person, instead, you might go, "Oh, skiing? I don't know anything about skiing. Like, what got you started in that? What do you like about it? What would you tell somebody who's skiing for the first time? Like, what should they know? How hard is it? Like, do you recommend skis or like snowboarding? Which one is easier to do first? How often do you get to go skiing? Like, there are so many directions you could take that conversation, not because you know anything about it, not because you're having to come up with things to say, but you're just asking questions and giving the other person attention and focus and space to share about something they probably never get to talk about. Now, listen, I love, I have a lot of nerd hobbies, so I'm debating which one to talk about, but I have a Baby Yoda collection. Okay, that's one nerdy thing. I also love learning about things like marketing and building websites. But listen, who wants to talk hear about that? You guys aren't here for that, right? I don't get an opportunity to talk about my nerdy things that I love very often. So when I meet another person who nerds out about the same things I nerd out about, psychology, neuroscience, any of those things, like we have an amazing conversation about something I really care about, but I don't really have the opportunity to talk about it that much. So for you and for other people, it's going to be the same thing. You are going to be able to find something that that person loves to talk about, but they never really get a chance to talk about it because people are distracted. They're on their phones, they're looking around the room, someone else is coming in. Like it's really rare to have someone who's just like zoned in, giving you attention and focus and wanting to connect with you. So you have a really amazing opportunity to give that other person space, to give them time and energy to talk about something they love talking about, and to show that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say. So there are tons of questions that you can ask, but the key here, right, is when you are meeting someone new for the first time. Some of you are here with me for the first time, and you are looking for connection points, right? Like you're evaluating and you're looking for connection points. If you have curly hair, you might go, "Oh my gosh, she has curly hair. I have curly hair." If you heard me talk about being a widow with teenagers and you have teenagers like Grant, then maybe one of those connection points is like, "Oh, she has teenagers. I have teenagers." Right? People are always looking for ways that they're similar to you and different from you. Okay. I prayed at the beginning of this event. People who are averse to prayer, averse to faith, they're going to be like, "Nope, this chick is not for me. She's different. I don't like this. The faith thing is not for me." For people who are faith based and do lean into that, they like that. That's a connection point. Like, oh, you're faith-based? I am too. I like that about you. And so there are a lot of like little breadcrumbs that you can drop in conversation that give people connection points to look at you and go, "Oh wow, me too. Yeah, we have the same connection point." So that could be priorities that you have, values you have, hobbies, interests, beliefs. I'm trying to look around my screen. Goals and dreams, visions, or activities. Like there are so many things that you could share with people that give them those connection points to you and that you could be looking for to connect to other people. Okay, whew, we're on a marathon here. So, our three simple steps: we're going to meet people, we're going to make friends, right? We're going to be curious and get to know somebody. And then the third one is that we are going to build relationships. Okay. Relationships take effort. And even if you think about the closest, the best relationships, the relationship that you may have had with your person, it takes effort to have a close relationship. You can easily get into the trap of just like passing ships passing each other in the night, right? Like you're just kind of in a routine, nothing's intentional, you're just kind of floating through life and you'll start to drift apart. As an introvert, I use that to my advantage. When I don't want to be close to someone, I just don't put any effort in and I allow space to come between us. That lesson's for another day. Any relationship, you want to have a close relationship takes intentional effort. And I say that because so many times widows tell themselves, I shouldn't have to be the one always making the invitation. I shouldn't have to be the one who plans things. I shouldn't have to be the person always reaching out. And you're right, you shouldn't be. I will give you that. You're right. You've been through enough in life. You shouldn't have to also go make some friends. And the reality is, if you want friends and you want close relationships, they take effort. Most people are not good at making specific invitations, at making plans. What happens? What happens? People say, oh, we should do lunch sometime. Oh, we should get together sometime. Oh, we should catch up sometime. And then the sometime never actually happens. And so, again, it's a simple step. To build a relationship, we have to put in the effort. We have to make specific invitations. If you really want to know if someone wants to spend time with you or not, make a specific invitation, meaning saying to them, like, hey, I'd love to go to lunch together and get, catch up on life. How does Friday at noon work for you? When you make a very specific invitation with a time, a place, a date, something very specific, the person will either immediately agree and be like, oh, yeah, that's great. Or they will say, oh, Friday, I'm super busy, but how about next Wednesday? Right? If they come back with another time and day, that kind of lets you know, like, oh, they're serious about getting together. Or they might say something like, oh, I don't know. I got to check my calendar. Let me get back to you. I'm just so busy. Da 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 da. Right? And if they just kind of keep doing this vague stuff, then you know that, okay, maybe it's just not a priority to them right now, or maybe they're just not interested. But if all you say is like, oh, we should get together, we should do something, like nothing is really going to happen unless that other person is just really good at making an invitation. So you have a choice to make a specific invitation. Okay. And I put some more conversation hacks in here if you just want some questions of things that you could ask people that are a little bit different. As you've kind of passed the acquaintance stage and you're moving into getting to know you or like a deeper relationship stage, asking people things like, oh, what were you like as a teenager? Or what's something that a lot of people don't know about you? Do you have what hidden talents do you have that we don't know about? I just want to give you kind of some extra questions there that you could ask people. And there are a lot of like conversation card decks now that are out there that give you lots of questions that you could ask too. So the goal though, and the point here is that you really want to be intentional with the time, effort, and energy it takes to build a relationship. And if you're in the early days of grief, don't feel guilty if you don't have that bandwidth. Like I literally told my friends, I cannot be a good friend to you right now. I don't have the energy. I'm not going to remember your birthday. I'm not getting you anything for Christmas. I'm probably not even going to respond to your text messages. Like I see them and I love you for sending them and thank you, but it's just like I don't even have the energy to respond to all these text messages every day. I just told them. And in the beginning, you don't. But there will come a point where you feel like you're ready, you have your feet underneath you some, that you're ready to build relationships. And so it will take you meeting people, making friends, and building relationships. Okay, are you guys still with me? Okay, so a life of intentional connection is absolutely possible for you. And I have heard probably every excuse out there. Of I live in a small town, I don't know what to say, I'm really shy, I have anxiety when I go and meet people. And I've worked with so many widows who were terrified to go out and make invitations, but each of them have been able to start building friendships and relationships. I even had one client who said, she was like, this person at church kept talking to me and it was really annoying. Like they just wouldn't stop talking to me. And finally, like I just had this realization like, oh, maybe they want to be my friend. And so I invited them to lunch and now we're going to lunch together. Like, there you go. People are just not good at inviting people. And so if you can do that piece, a lot of times people will be willing to be invited. So you can have a life of intentional connection and you can build friendships and you can overcome loneliness. Does it replace the deep intimacy that you had with your person? Of course not. But it helps with not feeling alone, with not feeling like nobody cares, that you're not seen, that you're not heard, that you could just disappear tomorrow and no one would be affected or care about that. It helps solve for a lot of those thoughts and feelings around that. And here's the thing. You can rebuild your social circle on your own. You can do it solo. You can go out, like you can take everything that I've shared with you today and just start doing it, and you will have some success. But a lot of times, what happens is people try to do some of these things and they feel really lost or lonely through the process or unsure like, am I doing this right? How could I say this differently? How can I convince myself to go when I don't feel like going? Like, there's just a lot of uncertainty there. And so, what I want to invite you to do is to be part of the Brave Widow Academy, where you can rebuild your social circle in a way where you feel supported. You have a very clear step by step plan. You feel connected with other people who are on the same journey. And instead of feeling unsure about whether or not you're doing grief right, you're doing this making friends thing right, you can have confidence in knowing that you are doing it right. And that the things that you are doing and things that you're trying, that you're able to see them work not only for yourself, but also for other people too. And so I'm just curious, for people that are with me or here in the chat, as you think about loneliness and rebuilding relationships, like how are you feeling about that? Like, do you feel good? Like you have connections, you have relationships, you're plugged in? Do you feel overwhelmed? Like you don't know where to start? Do you feel like you have a few friends and you're kind of building up on that? But I just kind of want to see like who's in the audience, so I can like tweak what I have to share with you, to match where you are in part of that journey. I feel like I have, Christine says, I feel like I have issues with trust. Okay, very fair. Lisa feels misunderstood. Riley says coffee or breakfast with another guy is easy to maneuver through. If the connection is with a woman, I feel I move with caution so to not put out the wrong vibe for anything more than friends. As I continue to heal in my season of grief, I have to move in God's timing. Yep, that's a great point. Grant says I have local friends that are being supportive. Amazing. Margaret Margaret says people are, and we'll see what else she wants to add there. People are busy at this time of year. True. And also, there are a lot of people that are really lonely and who aren't as plugged in and connected as they would like to be. Holidays are really a tough time for a lot of people, grief or no. My work did a restructure, so all my coworkers changed, and that is hard to lose my spouse and my coworkers that knew me. Ugh, that would be really hard. Karen says, I'm new at this, but so far I feel my friends are living their lives. Yeah, which is true. They are. April says, our friend group has ghosted me. They were more of his friends. Do I try to connect with them? Well, April, I think that's totally up to you if you want to try to connect with them. And I would just have zero, like very low expectations and think of it like an experiment. Like, I'm going to try this and see if it works. Nathan, one of his extended family members, was like his best friend. They would do things like 2 and 3 times a week together. They hung out together all the time. And after Nathan died, this person really just kind of vanished out of our lives. And I was shocked. Not really like, not that I thought we would have a close relationship, but more so the kids, like the boys. And a few months later, that person messaged me and said, hey, sorry I disappeared out of your guys' life, but it just makes me too sad to be around you guys. And so that's kind of the reality sometimes when it's a friendship or a relationship that was really through your spouse, is that might kind of be the reality, and that's okay. Diana says, I'm very close to my family, but I still work and they are retired and travel a lot. Okay. And MJ says, I have issues with trust. Yeah, very fair, very fair. And something that is solvable. So, if nothing else, what I want you to hear is that these things that each of you are struggling with or that you're working through, that they're all solvable. There's nothing that's like, oh, you're broken. Oh, issues with trust. Oh, that can never be redeemed. There's nothing like it is all solvable. Okay. So whether or not you solve that with me or by joining Brave Widow Academy or you solve it with a support group or by working on it yourself, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, what I want you to hear is that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you, that you can maneuver through this. Okay. So I want to share with you about Brave Widow Academy and make an invitation for you to join. If you don't want to hang out, don't hang out. You're welcome to stay. I would love to tell you about it and why I created it. After coaching widows for over about 3 years now, right at 3 years, and after my own experience, right, like what I have learned is that for most people, we have tried therapy, we've tried books, we've tried grief groups, we've tried just giving it time, we've tried waiting, and we're like, now what? Like, is this the rest of my life? That this is my reality now? Like, I just have to live with this. Like what if I want more out of life? And what drove me absolutely bananas is that no one could tell me what to do. There was no roadmap. There was no blueprint. There was no step by step. Like I'm a systems and process type of person. Like I want to know what's the checklist? What do I have to do? What are the things that I need to do, right? Like everybody just says, give it time. Everybody just says, there's no timeline in grief. You just kind of have to figure it out on your own. But after working with widows over the years, I really started to, one of my coaches encouraged me to start identifying the trends and start identifying like what are the things that we see over and over and over that people struggle with. And if we were to like A to Z line out what people could do to go from grief to actually starting to love their life again and being intentional about rebuilding life, what would that look like? And so I started lining those things out. I started teaching those things in different ways and different formats and seeing what resonated with people and what they didn't like and what helped them and what didn't help them. And so what I wanted to create was like a roadmap, like a blueprint of what to expect. And out of that really came the four seasons of grief. I don't know if you guys have, if you're new, you've probably never heard me talk about that, but I have tons of podcasts and free YouTube videos. You can go learn all about that if you want. But it's really identifying the four seasons of grief that people move through, that I've just noticed through patterns over time and talking with thousands of different widows. Like, what are the things I consistently hear? And putting those into like four seasons and then saying, okay, in each season, what could people focus on to help prepare them for the next season or to help empower them to be able to move to the next season? Like, what is it that keeps people feeling stuck or like they're going backwards or like they're not moving forward, they're stagnant, and fixing that as the problem. I'm a fixer, if you can't tell. So in the Brave Widow Academy, it really is designed to be everything that you need to stop feeling alone and to start rebuilding a life that you can love again. Now, does that mean in 6 months your life is perfect and you love it and, I've solved all the world's problems? No. In 6 months, you have the tools. In 6 months, you've already implemented big changes in your life, and you are on this journey of having a clearer vision for your future and starting to rebuild and knowing how to actually do that. I'm just going to share one client example here of my client Karen. Karen is very vocal about her story, so I'm not breaking any confidentiality. She's been on the podcast before, and she actually is going to be coming on again now that she's been in Brave Widow for a full year now. When I first met Karen, she signed up during a Black Friday deal that I had last year, and she was really overwhelmed at work. She was overwhelmed at home being a solo mom to adult children. She struggled with boundaries. Her employer, she'd been grieving for 3.5 years. And it was to the point where her work put her on a performance improvement plan because her work performance and how she treated people were really not well. And if you know what a performance improvement plan is, it's kind of a wake up call of either you need to change your behavior and you need to change your performance or you need to find another job. We're going to be managing you out if you don't change, right? They mandated she go to counseling. She went to counseling a couple times, and the counselor told her that, she'd been grieving 3.5 years. She needed to move on, like it was time to be moving on. She went to a grief group, didn't resonate with any of that, and she just sat in on one of these webinars and was like, "I want to try the academy, or try Brave Widow. Like, what do I have to lose? So I'm just gonna sign up for it. I've tried everything else. I don't know what to do." And we started working together, and we started with Grief Recovery Method, this program here, which I include in the academy. And 3 months later, okay, so I share this to also give you a little bit of hope. She had been a widow and grieving for 3.5 years. And 3 months after we started working together, her employer sat her down and was like, "What has changed? You are a completely different person. What have you been doing?" And so she told them about Brave Widow and told them about grief recovery method and what we have been doing. And not only did she get off of her performance improvement plan, but they wanted her to continue doing it. And so they decided to continue sponsoring her coaching. So they pay for her coaching. They paid for her to continue to have that support because they noticed how much it changed her as a person and how much it changed how she treated people at work. So she learned how to process grief. She learned how to regulate emotions. She felt heard and seen for the first time in 3.5 years. And she learned how to start implementing some boundaries. So she's continued to be in there. She's still part of Brave Widow today and still participates in the academy. And so life isn't perfect for her. I'm not going to pretend in 3 months that everything is perfect, right? But what I want you to hear is that it doesn't matter if you've been grieving 3 weeks or 3 years or 30 years. It doesn't take a lot of time to start noticing a difference or to experience some change. So Karen said, you can watch her video on my webpage, bravewidow.com. You can watch her story on the podcast that Brave Widow has been an answer to a 4 year long prayer. And that, let me scroll down, it has given her a new outlook on life in an extremely short amount of time she never expected. Amazing. Karen is amazing. Okay. So, just quickly, I know we're going over time. So if you guys have to go, I totally get it. So, the Brave Widow Academy is a 6 month program as a group that we go through where I walk you through what you need to be able to be equipped with the tools of grief and be able to start rebuilding your life again. So, this is like our curriculum modules. We start with grief recovery method. We usually will do it first or we'll do it like parallel as we go through. Now, Grief Recovery Method is the only outside program that I use. It's evidence based. We have another group that's starting on December the 9th. So if you want to join us, this is like perfect timing. But this program, every person that I've led through this program says that they've learned new things about grief and they've been given new tools to process their grief. And so it doesn't matter if they've been to grief share, to counseling, to grief groups, like, and quite honestly, you can take this program, Grief Recovery Method, from anyone. And so I recommend that you do, whether it's with me or not. Go do it. It changed my life, really, seriously. Um, it helped me with all of the things that I felt were unsaid, all of the yearning for one more conversation, for the loss of the dreams that I had for the future of what we were going to do together and reconciling a lot of that. It really helped me with that. But I also teach you how to get out of survival mode in the Chaos to Come blueprint, how to rebuild confidence with the self trust system, how to meet people and make friends in the connection protocol, how to find purpose and meaning again with the Discover Your Purpose plan, and then ultimately how to create a life you love in the Move Forward method. So, those are like all the systems and the modules that we walk through over 6 months in the academy. So, what is in the academy? I'm glad you asked. So, in the academy, um, we have weekly coaching calls that are 2 hours every week, which is 48 hours of live support. Plus, I do classes throughout the month, just like this, where we deep dive on a certain topic. And so you have the ability to continue learning. If I just were to charge for the coaching calls and the group, I priced that out at about $75 an hour to be part of a grief group coaching call, and that comes out to about $3,600 worth of value in coaching hours. Okay. But You also get 24/7 on-demand coaching support. Okay. So, what that means is that I use a messaging app called Telegram, and that anytime, day or night, you can go in and you can message me personally, me, one on one. And you can say, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? I want to share something that's going on in my life. It's 3 a.m. and I can't sleep right now. What tips do you have on sleeping? You can message me anytime. Now, I do have to sleep. So I will respond Monday through Friday. Okay. I can't respond 24/7. I am a human being and not a bot. But you can message me anytime and I respond during the week and give you feedback and guidance and give you your one next step. Like, okay, you're struggling with sleep. Here are some things that you can do around sleep. What are your thoughts on this? What can you try and let me know if that works or not work? And then we'll try something else. Okay. So for 6 whole months, you have on demand coaching support, which by itself is a $3,000 value when priced out across the market. Okay. Also, you have access to the 5 courses and modules that I mentioned, plus your roadmap of moving through the 4 seasons of grief, worksheets that we download every week and work on. And guess what? You're not going to have a ton of homework because I know that finding time to do homework is really hard. So, outside of grief recovery method, which does have some homework, the 5 courses that I created, we do the work in class together so that you will actually have time set aside to start implementing. My goal isn't for you to just learn a bunch of information. You can learn information on YouTube, which is where some of you are right now. You can learn how to make friends. You can watch hours of videos and binge videos on how to do stuff. My goal is to get you to take action and start implementing. So, in my newest academy group yesterday, we started working on our routine. And I said, we're not going to do this as homework. Like, let's start doing it together. And I pulled up someone's schedule and I was like, okay, what do you want to do at this time? What do you want to do at this time? And we start building it out together so that it's done with you. It's not me just talking at you and telling you to go do it and let me know how you do. Like, I'm walking this whole journey with you. Okay. Also, when you join the academy, I give you grief recovery method, which you can do grief recovery method separately and you can go price it separately. If you go to griefrecoverymethod.com, you can join a group. It's around $400 to join a group, and it's around $800 to do it one-on-one. And I include this as part of the academy. Okay. You can do this separately. So if you're not ready for the academy, but you want to do this, you can do it. It's $400. I will mail you a book. So, and you don't have to read it in advance, which is amazing. I'll send you the book. I'll send you everything that you need. This is included as part of the academy. Okay. Also, when you join the academy, I will do a one-on-one coaching call with you and give you a personalized plan of what I would focus on, right? So we have lots of modules inside the academy. I do walk through them one by one each week, but I also get widows at every stage of the journey. I get some widows that are early on in grief. I get some that are have done a lot of healing, and so they want to focus on things like making friends or things like rebuilding confidence. And so I'll give them a personalized plan of things that they can go ahead and start working on and implementing right away. I put it all in writing. I will send that to you. That's a $300 value. Also, we have a private community. So we have forums in our online portal. We also have a group chat in Telegram. And this really has finally become in the academy what I always wanted Brave Widow to be, which is sharing life together, doing life together, sharing the wins, sharing the things that are hard, sharing pictures, sharing videos, sharing memories, sharing like celebrating successes and also praying for each other and letting people know, like, I'm sorry, this is really hard right now. Like, just doing life together inside the community. I put that as a $300 value. Over 6 months, that's about the cost of a typical group membership. Okay. You also, last thing, I think. You also will get access to Brave through the holidays, which is something I created. It's a 60-day separate private support group that starts today in like 3 hours. We're going to start at 2 o'clock. We're going to have our first session of Brave through the holidays. We're going to talk about dread and anxiety and having a plan for navigating the holidays so they feel a little bit gentler and a little bit lighter. You again have worksheets. I do live, we're going to do 6 live calls over these next 5 weeks, and then you'll have access to all the replays and access to the group through the end of January. And in January, we're going to have a 2-hour work session where we come up with your plan for 2026. So I know some of you don't want to think about the future because it feels a little pointless and a little hopeless. And in that case, this is perfect for you. I know you thought I was going to say not to worry about it, but no, this is perfect even for people who feel like having a future is pointless. I'm going to help you start to paint a vision of what the future could look like for you. Okay. Again, with that, you get private group chat, you get access to all the tools, to what I teach my clients in a one-on-one environment, what I teach them in the groups. You'll get access to that. That I have been selling over Black Friday and Cyber Monday for $297, so $300 is what I priced it at. And after midnight last night, you can no longer purchase it separately. So the only way you can get access to it now is by joining the Academy. So if we tally all that up, that's like total value of almost $10,000 of what is included inside of the Academy. But I'm not going to ask you to pay $10,000. Okay. To join the Academy, it's a one-time investment of $3,000. We do also have a payment plan. Okay. So again, it's 6 full months of deep, intensive, not only group coaching, but also one-on-one feedback and support. We do have payment plans. So if you're interested, you can join me at bravewidow.com/academy. And if you're not sure, if you're on the fence, kind of unsure about whether or not this is right for you, you can always schedule a consult call with me over at bravewidow.com. I do those totally free and they're no pressure. So I don't guilt people for feeling like they need to make a decision while we're on the phone. But I just help you really evaluate where you are, where you want to be or could be, and what I would recommend for you as like next steps and your personal plan. And I send all of that to you. So if nothing else, after the call, you have access to all of that for forever. Okay. Lastly, and then I have to go, here is that I also guarantee, I give you a guarantee. We track progress every week inside of the Academy. We literally pull up at the beginning of the Academy, we track different areas like confidence, relationships, having a routine. There's 5 different categories that we track. Okay. And so my guarantee to you is that if you show up to the calls, and you're filling out your progress tracker and you're participating in the group, that you will make measurable progress during that 6 months, or I will continue to work with you for free until you do. That's just it. That's how simple it is. That's how confident I am that you will make progress. Will your life be perfect? No. But will you be able to look at your progress and go, wow, my confidence was a 2. And now my confidence is like a 8. Of course, I have results like that all day long. So I just have a few comments here, some testimonials and some comments of what people have said about the Academy. Sue says, you know, she highly recommends the Academy. We all grow together as we process grief and support each other with tools, resources, support, and love to keep stepping forward. Another student said, it's a relief to know I'm not the only one that struggles with family problems. I believe that no one can begin to understand what widows are going through unless they've been there. Thank you to my new friends. And you can go to the website and read all kinds of feedback. And I guess I took it off of here. Our academy calls are on Mondays from 3 to 5 Central Time, which is 4 to 6 Eastern Time. And also, you can do the math for Pacific and Mountain Time. Okay. 3 to 5 Central Time on Mondays. Karen, I'm happy I found you. Karen, I'm happy that you found me too, and that we get to work together. It's amazing. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I know I ran a little bit over, but I would love to see you inside of the academy. I have done my best to make this like a no-brainer thing. If you want help, if you want guidance, if you want a blueprint of step by step, here's what to focus on and here's what you can do next. I believe this is like the most amazing space and container that I have ever created. And that exists out there with helping widows not only process grief, but start to rebuild a life that they can enjoy again. Thank you for hanging out with me. I have another call I need to go to, but I look forward to talking to you guys later and seeing you in the academy. Bye.